Hey, hey, hey.
You're listening to the Tuesday Review, live on 98.9 Northwest FM. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James. How you going, James?
Not bad.
Joined by Alum. How you going, Alum?
Good, thank you.
And joined by Callum. How you going, Callum?
Yeah, not bad. Better before that tea.
Yes, Callum drank too much tea.
The lowest energy intro of any podcast ever.
So, before we get started with our PAX special, I'd just like to note that none of us have got the PAX pox yet. None of us have gotten sick from PAX yet, which is amazing. A miracle in and
James doesn't count because I don't know if I've ever seen James sick.
I haven't been sick since 2019. I haven't had cold or flu symptoms, I should say, since 2019.
Yeah.
I felt like shit for 20 years, but that's a different story.
All right, so listeners, keep an eye on our YouTube page because there's going to be PAX video footage and interviews coming up over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of footage to get through, but we'll get there.
We interviewed a lot of interesting people, which we'll talk about now, so make sure you're subscribed.
So
ring
at
that bell.
AU.
Yeah. And there'll be lots of cool stuff there to watch.
So it was Alum's first PAX in a couple of years. Before we jump right in, how did you find the experience overall this year, having missed the previous year? And the year before that was a bit of a...
Yeah, so the 2022 PAX was quite a letdown. A lot of the big players went there. There was just a bunch of people lined up to play some... Like games that were already out, I'm pretty sure it was just tournament stuff that they tried to kind of shimmy more into cover ground. And I was ready to stop coming to PAX.
Yeah.
I remember that conversation. Yeah.
And, I said I'd give it another year at least, and if they didn't pick up the game, we'd have that serious kind of thought. It's not like they're going to die without me or anything, but it was just one of the things of
Is it for us anymore?
Is it worth you going, yeah.
Is it slowly turning from a video game convention into a Comic-Con?
Yeah. And so, kind of iffy on it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go last year due to family issues.
But
you guys had a pretty good time because we were media there. We were the Tuesday Review repping.
And not just that, but you guys, because last year was my first year at PAX, so Callum and Nathan were saying the tabletop and the area was the biggest it had ever been.
Yeah.
And it was just way bigger than...
I think it's heading in a positive direction because in the past it's had just more merch and more stores just selling you stuff and less experiences, less chances to do a role-playing experience or play a board game or people bringing their own board games.
Yeah.
There was less of that and more kind of merchants, the capitalist aspect of it.
Because in the real previous years, the big dogs, Nintendo, Xbox / Microsoft, and Sony would be there. And they'd have, somewhere in the realm of, I'm going to say 50 square meters of space where you would then line up for 2 hours to play 5 minutes of some game that's coming out
next week.
Next week, or
that all those people are going to buy anyway.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about it was Jake, friend of the show, and me were talking on the last day of PAX about the differences now because Jake was let down by this PAX because he says that it's not the same as it used to be. We talked about a few years ago, but I say a few years ago, I can't remember exactly what year it was. It was before Kingdom Hearts 3 was released. And this was when PAX still had the big companies with their displays.
Yeah.
And so what they would do was they would have just kiosks with Xboxes going or PlayStations. And they'd have 30 consoles, I guess, just set up in rows with monitors and controllers. And you could just play games. Some of the games had been released. Some of them had not been released. And there was very little queue time for some of these games. So for me and Jake, for example, one year, we just got to play Kingdom Hearts early. A month before release. There was no one waiting there. We just went and played a game that wasn't available yet.
You think that would be one of the most popular things? There'd be a line of people around.
Yeah, it was bizarre. But my point is, that's not around anymore. You don't get that experience of being able to go to the Xbox booth and play an Xbox game. The closest we got was that weird little retro building where there was Halo on console with the Duke controllers.
Yeah, but they were marketing something else.
Yeah, but my point was that was the only kiosk I could see.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Sony and Microsoft weren't there last year and weren't there this year. Nintendo was there last year, but not this year.
It seems weird where it used to be they would have to be there. Yeah. But it's now it's nah, they don't really care. But instead, you've got Aussie Broadband having a more of a space. It's these weird companies.
Yeah, I mean, there's it's because those those are the big video game companies, but those are the biggest.
Yeah.
They're huge corporations.
I should say though, Steam was there this year, which
Yeah.
is one of the
true.
big companies.
Yeah, well, that's
True.
one of the big
True.
Steam
Yeah.
was also there, Steam decking. So
Yeah.
And that was a big announcement too. That was a big deal. That the fact that they chose PAX to announce that they're releasing the Steam Deck, one of the
In
most
Australia.
requested consoles in Australia.
Yeah, but
So
it's
that's-
already been out for a couple of years.
Not
Yeah.
officially.
Not in Australia.
Overseas, though.
Yeah, and you could get it in
Yeah.
Australia through third parties like Kogan and
And
Woolies or
Woolies.
whatever.
Yeah,
Amazon
which is
and-
it kind of lessens the.
Yeah, but it's still,
the-
it's
the-
still
the-
nice.
it's still a
Well,
big thing.
The
Yeah.
good thing about it is that now when they release a new model,
Mm.
we can order it from the Steam app and it gets released in Australia directly.
Yeah.
So the biggest story behind
Probably
that
warranty.
yeah,
is
grey
better.
market
Correct.
import issues.
Yeah,
You
Yeah,
don't
the,
deal
the
with
bigger story there is it's not just about the Steam Deck. It's about their, and there's an article on
Infrastructure.
this. It was about their logistical and supply chains. So now that they've worked that out, everything they release from now forward will get released in Australia on launch.
Oh, that's good. So we won't have to wait.
No.
No.
So
Yeah.
if they're releasing the Steam Deck late now, yes, but when the Steam Deck 2 comes out, we'll be able to get it day one, which
That's
is a bigger
good.
deal.
Yeah, that is good.
That whole kind of story is a bigger deal.
and
than
whatever
just the
else
Steam
Yeah.
they come up with in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Anyway, so yeah, moving on. We have some of the big hitters at PAX this year. We had Steam,
Yeah, Sega was there. Sega.
Sega was good.
Final
and we had-
Fantasy,
Fantasy, of
14,
course,
which
yeah.
I love, but man, they come off as so obnoxious.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I love the
They had,
game,
like half
but
the hall.
yeah, I know it's just this big obnoxious display.
There was also like a dodgeball tournament
I was gonna
area,
say that
which I was
live
like,
dodgeball
that was Red
tournament.
Bull.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
what
Like,
the?
That's pretty cool, but okay. Yeah.
I'm like,
Because some of the big dogs were like, you had Centacom and stuff. They had a big booth. They were just they had two setups of sim racing.
Mm.
So they had like the steering wheel and everything, and there was a competition.
That was
Yeah.
MSY, wasn't it?
MSY had one too, and then Centacom
Oh.
had one. So again, you just had like big old retailers.
yeah,
who
but
had-
that's. I mean, I haven't been. Last year was the only time I've been, but I feel like every convention has like the corporations trying to sell
Yeah,
their.
it
Like there was the
didn't
keyboard place.
Yeah.
There
didn't
was
used
a
to be-
Crunchyroll.
It didn't used to be that obnoxious with the merchants, we'll say.
Mm.
Yeah. It used to be like, again, the big dogs were there. They would have a very large amount of space, and they'd have a lot of consoles, and then they'd have a huge line for whatever new game that was going to come out.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was kind of your thing.
And
You'd have Square Enix, you'd have Ubisoft. So you'd have a big amount of space was just taken up by the big players.
Mm.
and I also feel like there were more, using quotes here, DJs and MCs than ever before.
And there was like
I feel like at every corner there was a dude screaming into a microphone.
There was a lot of,
blowing
like,
the
merch.
ears out.
I felt it was less than normal. though.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was the previous PAX I went to. That was like every corner had just a guy yelling something and people lining up trying to yell for.
Was
for-
Nosy?
I feel
was
like that
Nosy
happened.
was Nosy at last year's or was that the one before?
That was
I
a couple,
don't-
2 or
Do you
3
know
years
why?
ago.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Nosy was there repping his like PUBG team or whatever.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
Sorry.
it was
But-
good. There was a lot of indie sort of stuff that
Yeah.
was good. That
But
we
I mean,
enjoyed.
that's
And-
to sort of go off what Callum was saying. We were talking to Jake, and he was like, "I'm a bit disappointed because it used to be like, all the big companies showing their games early." And I was saying like maybe with the internet, the way games are now with early access and stuff, it's just different.
Also,
like
the
the
games
way-
take 16 years to make
Yeah,
these days, and
that's the other
$500
thing.
million.
Yeah. So that's part of it. But also like at the end of the day, like we go. I won't speak for you guys, but I think you'd agree. We go for the more interesting, smaller indie games anyway, because the big
These
games,
days, yeah.
the big games, they already have their marketing budget. We know they're coming out. We know if we're going to buy them or not. It's
Yeah.
the little games that need exposure, that need play testing or
Yeah.
feedback, or it's the small Aussie developers and
Yeah.
whatever.
With the big dogs, it's just you're just fluffing them a little bit. You're fluffing yourself.
Yeah.
being like,
Exactly.
I can't
I
wait
think-
to play this game in like you said, a week.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Or you're like, you can tell your friends, I played it
Yeah.
an early, and
It's
it's like,
bragging
who
rights.
cares? Like,
Well,
we're not in school anymore.
a story I like to tell when it comes to this is a long time ago now. We went to a PAX and Final Fantasy 15 was about to come out in like a week or two.
Mm.
And there was a huge line of
Yeah.
people. Like,
When they-
it was like a capped line, like
Yeah, when
3
they-
hour wait or whatever.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
capped the line and said it's 3 hours from here. And I'm like,
why?
the game's coming out in a week. I'm not going to spend literally half of my day
Yeah.
queuing
Yeah,
for this.
like what's the
for a
point?
10-minute
If people,
experience.
if people want to do that, fine. But
Yeah,
I've never
yeah.
been interested
Um,
in that. So
my
like, it's for
issue-
me, it's not really sad when they don't have stuff like that at PAX. But yeah, I can understand.
My issue with PAX is I feel like people like Jake go there to see the video games.
Mm.
Now, part of this, I should note, part of this is seems to be Disney's fault because they had this massive stall for Lorcana.
That's another
which
thing.
no one
and
seems
the
to
Star
care
Wars
about.
game.
Yeah, this year there were large gaps of just nothing in between
Yes.
a few stalls, and I was scratching my head being like, this is unusual. Last year there were more stalls, it was a bit more packed, and it was good to have room. You know, we were not packed in like sardines, but I was scratching our head like, why? And we talked to someone, they're like, oh, Disney just bought out room so that people could line up for their
which is
Well,
funny.
there's stuff
which
that nobody wanted to line
yeah,
up
their
for.
lines weren't that long anyway.
I didn't see anyone actively lining up the whole time with this.
Yeah.
So Disney launched Lorcana at PAX basically, and the problem with trading card games, or TT, whatever they call them, TT, CGs, whatever they are, trading the whole Magic the Gathering style.
Yeah,
system.
CCGs.
Yeah, the whole problem with those is they're a lifestyle choice. They're not a video game.
That's right.
You won't see.
But also Disney people who are into Disney are already living that lifestyle.
Yeah,
so.
but they're not. Do you like your trading card game?
No, they're living the Disney lifestyle.
Yeah,
so-
Disney lifestyle,
Disney
but that's
lifestyle,
not the trading card
Stop
game
and
lifestyle.
get some help.
yeah.
If you're a Disney person, you might buy a starter pack of Lorcana and look at it and be like, "Nah, man, I can't dedicate every single weekend of my life to this trading card game," because that's what that's where people that get into this, that's their life.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering style.
Yeah, like a lot of these nerds, I use that in a loving way, only have enough time in their lives for one trading card game and they'll stick to it. And then most of the time that's Magic.
But it's the goal of Disney or Wizards to get people drawn in.
Exactly. That's what I mean. All of these nerds, they're nerds. Magic had a booth at PAX. They're already over there, man. You know what I mean? Like...
I mean, people who play Magic are probably not going to switch over to Lorcana.
No, at least not.
But that's not.
At least not initially. That's why Disney had that scope creep, where they're like a large amount of space. We're going to be killing it.
It's because they're Disney. Like they're God basically.
Yeah.
They're just like we're the best. Like we have the biggest, most well-known brand.
But I think they underestimate exactly how much time people put into these games and how much time they're willing to invest into something new when they're already in the ecosystem.
Yeah, but they don't really care. It's just
No,
about
they
the.
I think that. Excuse me. My issue with PAX is that they've dedicated... this is a positive to me, but for a lot of people, this is a huge negative. They've dedicated so much of their space to like board games and card games that I feel like the video game area took a huge hit this year. So like you have the tabletop section, you have tabletop stuff going on in the tabletop hall, which is like a completely separate room, and these rooms are huge. And there's how many rooms are there total? Like
Rooms?
3?
I mean,
like
it's
two
one.
rooms.
It's like one big hangar,
Yeah,
and
but
then they
it's
just
like
cut it in
divided.
half.
It's divided into halves.
Yeah. So you have like one whole area devoted to essentially tabletop and a tiny bit of merch, like the stalls.
Yeah.
And then you have tabletop in the indie area as well, where the video games go. So there's like a section for tabletop.
That was this year. Last year was set up pretty well, where the sort of video game, the mainstream video game stuff, the sort of computer companies and selling stuff, and the indie video games were on one side, and the tabletop tournaments and free play and the people sell the indie tabletop card games and all that were on the other side.
Yeah.
So that was good. But this year they put the indie tabletop and card games with the indie video games on the video game side with the other big boys.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is like I think that's an issue because I feel like there were less video games than there have been previously. Now, whether that's just because less video games are getting made or less people are applying to come to PAX, I don't know. But I feel like tabletop is becoming so huge that maybe we just need like a PAX. Well, in America they have PAX Unplugged, which is just tabletop. Like maybe we need like a PAX Unplugged Oz in Australia or a version of that.
There are tabletop only conventions.
Yeah, but I'm like, I feel like they needed to rein tabletop in a little bit, and I say that with love because I love the tabletop part. But I'm like, PAX is not just. It's not like mostly tabletop and some video games. It's originally it was like a nerd convention, but it was like a video game convention. Like first and foremost about video games.
I think the issue is, so they moved the winners of the indie board game sort of competition they have every year. They moved that to be at the forefront with the other PAX Rising content, and that increases visibility. So we were talking to some of the people, like people from Button Fox, for Freight Ally.
Yeah.
We were talking to them over the convention, and they said it's increased the amount of people playing their game by a huge margin.
That's
So
yeah.
I can understand the reason for the change. It brings visibility to like the showcase winners.
To us, I was like, this is disappointing. But then Haley from Bump Fox was
Yeah.
like, no, it's actually
Yeah,
really
I think
good
the
for
problem
us.
is when they get shut at 6 and then they have
That's
to go.
yeah, because I was like, that's silly. Last year they stayed open
because
later.
the
and
video
we could-
game part of the hall closes earlier than the tabletop part of the hall, at least on Friday and Saturday,
Yeah,
and then at Sunday everything
Everything
gets knocked out.
shuts.
Year
Yeah.
6. So I can understand the change. I just wish maybe they had a better management system for moving the board game side over to the other hall, or potentially having a small section of that space left open.
mm.
You know, maybe change the way, have a little hallway connecting both areas, and they can just block it off somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would work. But
Rope it off or something.
yeah, rope it off somehow and have just a little bit of that video game hall accessible for the board games. So it's less disruptive that way.
yeah.
But I can understand that change.
But yeah, no, I just think that like I feel like there needed to be more video games, and there needed to be more video games that people can easily play. So I'm talking about the old style kiosks I mentioned before, where it's like just like not like the indie developers who you have to wait a while because they only might have like 1 or 2 computers for you to use. But like in the old days, you could just like go and find a game to play, and it was like on the floor, the expo floor.
Yeah.
So it was like you could go into. Do you remember when Nintendo had what was it? That Luigi's Mansion game. Like you had to queue, but like you could able to queue. I don't remember the queue being that long, and you could just go in there and play it. They had a bunch of consoles set up to play it, and you could do that. And I was like, oh, do you remember that time we played Luigi's Mansion? And like we don't get that anymore.
No.
Well,
That was an aspect of having the big dogs there. Is
Yeah.
they would rock up with 30 PlayStations, 30 Xboxes, and those would be the ones that they wouldn't have the up and coming game, but just have general. Their
Well,
like,
there
best
is
hits.
the free play section. There's the retro gaming
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
But
But
this
that's all-
this
that's
was
all-
done purely by them. So while you're there, maybe if your friends lined up for something, you can be like, "Well, I'll play a bit of Xbox and see what Forza's all about,
Yeah.
that kind of thing." And that also takes people away from the general crowd.
Yeah.
Gives you a bit of something to do.
But-
But now that's not present anymore. Now it's just, oh, you want to go to Centrecom and see this gaming laptop that costs $2,500 and play. What was it?
Fortnite
Sun
was-
Wukong on it.
Yeah.
And like the other one's also running Sun Wukong, and the other one's running Sun Wukong.
And you could go and play Fortnite on some PCs on some display,
Yeah.
but it's like who cares? I could do
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's the corporate trying to market.
But
their-
my point is, I feel like they needed to have more of a this is a real convention feeling rather than like. I almost, please don't take this the wrong way, boys, but I almost think at this point Comic-Con is as good a convention as PAX.
No,
You take that
I
back.
mean,
No.
if we're talking about the Comic Con we went to,
I
and
have
the reason- the-
I have
the
no horse
reason-
in this race because
The reason I say that is because Comic-Con, when I think about it as a place of commerce, it achieves that incredibly well. PAX, as a convention of video games and entertainment, didn't hit the mark. So it's like
I disagree.
no, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm on the wrong side of history on this one. But like when I think of PAX, I think of like we've been to heaps of PAXs at this point. So like to me, my fondest memories of PAX are there's lots of indie games. The big dogs are there with lots of consoles. I can play a game anytime I want. There are the big event games, like the ones that haven't been publicly released that you can queue up for if you want to. But even the like I didn't play console free play. But even then, it's like there are just people playing Smash Brothers. I'm like, that's only fun if you're there with the fellas and you're playing Smash together. But I'm like, but even then, I'm like, I feel like they needed something extra. If you're not going to have the big boys, pardon the sexism involved, but they need something extra to give it that big convention excitement. And they're just not doing it. Whereas Comic-Con, as a convention of commerce, it's like, well, there were heaps of stalls selling all kinds of different things. I'm only comparing them because they're the two big conventions in
so
Victoria.
if we rephrase your statement to Comic-Con did its job better,
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I will agree with that. Comic-Con did its job as Comic-Con better than PAX did its job as PAX.
Keep in mind, like,
That being said, James, you haven't been to...
That's what I was
That's,
gonna say,
I haven't been to many PAXs, but
PAX used to be.
You don't
considering
get the rose-tinted glasses that we do of the old
PAX,
stuff.
Yeah,
PAX
but
used to be
consider-
so much bigger.
But also considering we went to Comic Con, we're like, this is pretty bare bones.
I
and
liked
there's
it as
not
a
lot
one-day
going on.
experience.
No, I enjoyed
Yeah.
myself, but I was like, PAX is such a, even the 2 years I've
I
been,
will say
was
you're
such a
comparing.
bigger thing.
I will say you're comparing 1 day at Comic Con to 3 days at PAX. I'm sure on a if you only had 1 day at PAX, you wouldn't be able to see everything you wanted to see. I guarantee.
Yeah, also,
Probably not.
So,
Like,
on a 1-to-1 day experience, you'd probably still prefer
yeah,
PAX.
keep in mind, like, again, I haven't been to all
the
the.
There was
one day
also-
Comic-Con?
There was also
I thought you did the two.
no. I only had the one. I only had the 1 day pass.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think me and you
They didn't
went
give enough
Um,
media
both
passes.
days.
Keep in mind, I found one book I wanted in terms of commerce. Like at previous PAXs, there's been heaps of merch booths.
Yeah,
Like they've been smaller, but like there's been more of them because Disney wasn't taking up all that space.
yeah.
And I've been more interested in spending money at all these places, like the little. Do you remember that board game I played about the goblins?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought. Sorry, like there's none of those little developers there or little companies.
No,
selling
there were a
their-
lot of those.
There were, you just weren't. I was
Yeah.
trying to get people going to the collaborative space all weekend.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, I'm talking about like stalls with people like selling books
No,
by the counter.
No,
there
there
were a few.
were
There were.
a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Yeah, it's just
The ones I saw were kind of.
well,
not great.
maybe there just wasn't ones that tickled your fancy, but there were a lot of stalls just selling random merch, and there were also a lot of stalls selling their games and their books and all that sort of stuff. Yes, there were the bigger gaps in between stalls at some places than there were last year, but I still think it's a massive, it's a massive thing, much bigger than the Comic-Con we went to here, and yeah, I understand that the big Microsofts and Sonys and Nintendos leave a hole, but I think
For me, that's no loss.
that's no loss for me. And also, from what you guys are saying, the indie tabletop card game section and the creative space is so much bigger
Yeah, it's
that it
massive.
makes
Well,
up for.
Well, just over last year's PAX, we noticed that the actual tabletop role-playing section is, like the D&D stuff, is double the size at least.
Yeah.
As last,
Oh,
compared to
exactly.
last year.
Like I said, it's
Yeah.
great for us.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
the
Is
funniest
it's
part is
like,
But then
double
it's
size, but-
also just shit for some other people. Is what I'm
you're
saying.
never gonna be able to
you
please
can't
everyone.
please
No, but
everyone,
like
but
the previous PAXs, it was kind of like 50-50, where it was like there was something for everyone. Where I'm like, it seems to be a little skewed now towards tabletop, which is because maybe
Nah.
the big it like literally is though, like because the big boys aren't there and they're not filling
But
that space.
there's
They're not filling the space with more
there's
indies.
still that entire section of like, the keyboard, like I was saying, the keyboard place and like the MSY and
Yeah, but
whatever.
that's not
like,
for that's for the nobles, not the peasants, James.
All right, homies.
but that's a different. That's another thing of like.
we're going to start running into the risk of going in circles here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's. I guess we'll finalize our general thoughts, and then we'll move on into some, I guess, more detailed
Look,
kind of.
as an
direction.
overall PAX experience, it's definitely far better than the 22 experience. But that's not a high bar, let's be fair.
That was the post-COVID PAX, and that's
Yeah.
drug.
Yeah.
Oh,
Trying to
yeah.
bounce
That was a
back.
dog turd.
Yeah, no, that was
I understand.
that
yeah.
was bottom of the
It was
barrel. That
rough.
was awful. Yeah.
For me, this was definitely a pretty good experience.
PAX is coming back. I will say it is coming back. If they can keep up the momentum, it will
Yeah.
it will get better.
And as a group that, focuses on more, we'll call it indie, whether it be board games, tabletop stuff, or indie, video games, I think it was a pretty good deal on our end. We were able to interview a lot of great people,
Yeah.
get a lot of great footage, and form a lot of great relationships.
Yeah, like
we worked very hard.
I guess moving into some of that stuff, like our first appointment, I guess, was Which Way Up, and we, we'd emailed Alex from Which Way Up. He's the guy behind Indie XP. He, works with the developers to reach out to media and all that kind of stuff. And we met him in person for the first time. We'd already played Which Way Up. We have a couple of YouTube videos on it as well, so go watch that. We didn't get to play it at PAX this year, but we got to have a quick chat with them.
Yeah, we
about
recorded an
about the
interview.
game. So we have an interview coming up with that game, and that's a very good game. Again, it was nice to kind of meet some of these faces, which we email, and
Yeah.
so that was nice. That was a nice experience. And then the other highlights, I guess, Toge.
Toge?
Toga, yeah.
Toge Productions. Alan played a few of their games.
Yeah, 3 whole games.
Yes.
So that they brought, they had quite a reasonably sized booth, and they were a group from Indonesia, which...
one of the largest developers.
Yeah, so it's quite a rarity, obviously, from our end, seeing it being in Australia, seeing a group, coming from Indonesia. We get a lot of people from, obviously, New Zealand especially, and then some from the States, that sort of stuff. But it was refreshing to see a group from a different part of the world come in, show content, which was surprisingly, quite fun to play. Quite a variety of games.
Yeah, their games
Yeah,
look
they
really
brought
cool.
a few. What were they? There was like the mech game. What
I
were they
wrote it
called?
down. There was Whisper Mountain Outbreak, which was the sort of
Resident
Silent
Evil.
Hill, Resident Evil.
Yeah.
kind
I'm
of-
interested in that for the co-op stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be...
Yeah.
Like it's basically you're playing, like similar to how we played Left 4 Dead, that kind of stuff. You've got the horde coming in, those sorts of things. Again, the video will be out there.
And will you yell at me? Or Julian, I should say.
Yeah, Julian will cop it.
Yeah, you yell, "Why did you do that, Julian? Now they're coming."
But they also had
Kriegsfront Tactics.
Yep.
That one looked.
That
up
was
my
really
alley,
cool.
Yeah.
Alan was playing it. I was watching it, and I'm like, this looks really cool. It's like a mech, giant mech suits and
It's
like
if,
tactical.
Yeah.
If people aren't aware, if they've looked up or played Front Mission before, it was basically like Front Mission.
Yeah.
Kind of like an RPG, but like you play mechs and units can die and destructible environments, all that cool
Yeah,
stuff.
it was really cool.
XCOM aspect. And one of the coolest things I saw in it where, again, in certain attacks, you actually aim the shot yourself.
That's
So it's
cool.
not just you just picking attacks.
that's
like
cool.
it's getting you into real time action into the game.
That's
which
cool.
I'm like, that is
something different.
You got to find yourself a way to differentiate yourself, and that is.
Again.
That was
And this is
amazing.
what we do love about PAX. We get these more indie kind of experiences.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen this game unless I was here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have the other game? The third one?
Moses and Plato.
That's it. And that was like a kind of a 2D kind of cartoon inspired point and click mystery game.
Mystery game with multiple dialogue options, multiple endings.
That's cool. I think the only problem with some of those types of games at PAX for me is they can time.
Well,
Like,
that's any game.
I mean, at least with say Kriegsfront Tactics, it's like
You get a feel
can
for the
get a
game.
better
feel
idea of what-
for it.
yeah.
I can get a feel for the combat and the gameplay loop. Some of the narrative games, I'm just like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to get all of the gameplay elements out of this demo because it's such narrative focused.
Yeah.
So some indie games do this thing, and Square does this a lot actually. But some indie companies do this thing where they'll release a demo that is separate from the game.
Yeah.
So it has the same characters of the main game, but it'll be like, here's a little snippet of gameplay that's separate from the story we tell in the main game, but it gives you a feel for the mechanics.
It's like highlights.
Like it introduces the mechanics and the storytelling narrative or mechanics to you, and then it's like a 10-minute experience, or in Square's terms, it's like a 2-hour thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that's something you should take to an expo.
Square. Square's a big company.
Yeah, I mean, this
so-
is something for you to download at home. But
Yeah.
what I mean is there should be like companies doing this for expos where it's like, here's a 10-minute slice.
Yeah, especially for us, like we were trying to interview so many people, and like we want to play the game first, so we have an idea of what to talk about, what to talk to them about, and like get an idea about the game. And we were like, oh no, we got an appointment, so we have to quickly play. And
that's the other half of
sometimes
it for us.
Yeah.
Like with the Toge Productions games, we're waiting there with our camera all set up. Alan's playing it. We're recording some footage. We've been playing it, and we're kind of just like, we're also conscious of time. Because we want to get a chance to talk to people, and we're also conscious of not also overstaying our welcome, because there's people that want to play
we don't want
these
to take up
games
too much of that. Yeah, but in saying that, this year was much better in terms of like us being prepared, because we sort of had an idea of what to do from last year.
Yeah.
So we were, I think, a bit quicker and more prepared.
And we
but
also had double the team.
Yeah, because because everyone was there, and Alan had his equipment and I had my equipment. We were able to
split the squad sometimes.
Eventually split into sort of teams and film like in 2 different interviews at the same time, which that really helped, because I think we got heaps done.
Yeah, and the enforcers let us in on time every day, so
Yeah, we didn't have problems.
Go
like last
enforcers.
year.
we did have some hiccups, but we'll leave that.
Yeah.
Again, you know what? I do feel for the enforcers, because we discussed it on PAX as well. It's like they're all volunteers. There's probably no real communication. Like there is communication.
I think they have
It's
like
such a big thing.
I think they have like a
thing, and-
Discord.
They have a
like,
chat,
they had like a
but
group chat.
I'm
and
sure they have like a meeting at the start where they all get together.
Yeah.
And say, okay, guys.
but also it's chaos.
Yeah, there's
And
so much
if you're
going
unsure
on.
of something, or something's happening, and you've got 10,000 people around you all talking, and you
Yeah.
can't concentrate,
Yeah.
and
James
you're
and
not
me-
sure of an answer, and you don't know, no one's answering your messages.
Well, James and me wanted to find the media room once. So we asked an enforcer, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me look that up for you," because he told us there was like a number. But anyway, he was looking it up, and he asked. I think they have a Discord, because I looked at his
he's
phone.
at a
I saw-
group chat.
He was in a group chat in Discord, and he's like, just waiting for a response.
Yeah.
And we're like waiting, and he's like, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Eventually,
And we're
I
like,
asked someone
oh,
else,
this
and we
poor
got-
guy.
Eventually, asked someone else, and he gave us some esoteric instructions.
Yeah,
and
someone
we're just
who's
like,
stand
our brains
there,
are
go
liquid.
left, and then
It was like some backroom shit.
That's
where
it.
they're
First
just
you go
like,
to the back rooms.
go
yeah.
upstairs,
that's-
downstairs, left, right, in the basement, come back up again, and it's near the
end of the
info
Brody
desk.
pub.
And we're
Yeah.
just like, Okay, never mind.
No, but it's to organize an event
Yeah,
like
of
that,
course.
but especially with volunteers and like there's so much going on and there's so many different stalls and there's always
Although also the paddles they have to organize and the lines
Yeah.
they have to monitor and oh my god.
So moving on. We caught up again with Ben from Memories Reach.
yeah.
And he had a new level out. The game looks a lot. I'm not saying it looks better because it looked good the first
No,
time.
it looked great
No.
the first time.
But he did improve.
there's-
He did make improvements
Yeah,
under the hood. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there's like
it-
new special effects in the levels and all that.
volumetric
there's
lighting
new
and
game
stuff.
there's new gameplay elements and new
Fog in it.
abilities.
So we got to play the new
environmental hazards.
level. Alan got to play the level for the first time and meet the man.
Yes.
Oh, did you play it?
I accidentally hopped on somebody else's left game, and that's a big
Oh
mistake.
yeah, you told me.
Because
yeah.
You had no idea.
Yeah,
about,
you don't get to do the introductory stuff, which lets you know how the puzzles work.
Mm.
And if you don't know that background, man, do you struggle.
Yeah, you didn't start with the easier puzzles and work your
Yeah,
way up.
yeah.
You just were dropped in.
Yeah, and I was like, and it was like a half-assed puzzle by somebody else. So
Yeah.
some stuff had already been done, and I was like, I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah.
But that was like I think being the actual exhibitor, it's one of those things you gotta be real careful of. Like once a person leaves, you make sure it's fresh. Obviously, Ben was busy,
Yeah.
and I also
Oh,
just
yeah.
jumped on immediately.
Again, the whole thing, that's part of the other aspect you feel for the exhibitors too, because there's a cost factor here.
Yeah.
It's like you're running the booth yourself because maybe you're making a video game, you're relying.
Well,
like,
a
you
lot
have
of them are solo dev.
Yeah, solo dev. You have no other income, so it's like you can't necessarily afford to pay someone to help you all day, or if you don't have a volunteer, especially if you're coming interstate or overseas,
internationally.
Yeah.
You got to book
Then-
the hotel for another person, visas and everything
Yeah.
else.
or you got to hire someone to help you locally. And I'm like, even that, it's like, you know what? It's a lot of effort, and sometimes it's like you're just trying to do everything yourself, and it's hard to manage.
It's hard, yeah. So, still overall, definitely enjoyed that. Then the thing that took me by quite a bit of surprise was Whistling Wizard.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
we
you
love
did-
Whistling
So,
Wizard.
so you guys obviously spoke to them, I'm assuming, last year.
Yeah.
Jake's their number one fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ryan Forrester and Roger Heel, I believe.
Is this
Yeah,
Rose
we
and
s-
Locket.
Rose and
Rose-
Locket?
Rose-
Yeah,
Locket.
we spoke to Roger last year and about Rose and Locket. It was
Yeah,
really
fantastic
cool.
game.
Yeah,
And
and Roger was awesome.
If anyone wants a lesson in... Okay, circumstances obviously changed depending on the game, but they did a masterclass in setting up your game in a comfortable, short-ish, pocket of time where a person can, one, learn, the mechanics, and then experience a little bit of the narrative of the game enough to get them really excited.
Yeah.
Because there was a lady playing before me, she maybe had some... Maybe her gaming skills went up to par, let's just say. I'm not going to judge. But when I took the reins, it was like quick, fluid. I learnt everything. And then you flow into a little bit of the story aspect.
Yeah.
So that gives you that lovely little taste of like, hey, this is what you can expect if you play this game. Like, this is the kind of narrative we're pulling. We're not going to spoil anything. You're not going to sit here for half an hour learning all this lore. No, you're going to get snippets. And those snippets, you'll know whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely liked it.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I need more. But that is a masterclass in how to present a game, I think, at PAX, where you're trying to keep this audience person's attention, give them a good feel for what the game's about, and then, you can be ready for the next person
Yeah.
in a relatively short amount of time.
Good demo of highlights. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, it does what it needs to do in the time frame that's
Yeah.
reasonable.
And also, just themselves, they were lovely people.
Yeah, yeah.
So that always helps,
Mm.
if you're just a cool person overall.
So I guess we'll
From
focus
across the
on
pond, right?
Yes.
New Zealand, yeah.
we'll
My
focus
old
on
home.
video games before we move into tabletop.
Mm.
That way it'll be easier, I guess,
Yeah.
to make it easier listening.
Mm.
Any other video games people really enjoyed and were on a topic?
Max Mustard.
Yes, me and Alum had, like there are those games that bring you back to being a kid almost,
Yeah.
and those experiences that are just like feel magical, and they're wholesome and they're pure, and they're just like it's little video game magic.
Mm.
For me and Alum, I'm pretty sure I'll speak for both of us. That was Max Mustard.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a VR game,
Mm.
which requires some resources that we don't necessarily need or want to be spending right now.
It's an Australian game, right?
Yeah, they're from. Is it Brisbane or Queensland?
I believe they're from,
Yeah,
Brisbane
yeah.
in Queensland.
Yeah.
I spoke to Ben, I believe, and I may have screwed up this because we met like 100 people, and
Yeah.
several people were named
Brains
Ben.
are brains are marsh. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we met about 3 Christophers,
Yeah.
more than one Ben. So
Yeah.
I apologize. We'll put a correction in there. And
But Toast Interactive.
yeah, Toast Interactive, And they had a very successful plank walking VR game.
Richie walks the plank
Yeah.
or something.
So
Yeah.
that was able to get them kind of that increase in funding to build a team up, and then build a wonderful game that is max mustered.
And it's a chunky game too. Like we played through one level, and I'm not sure if it's edited for time. Probably would be. However, in the full game, there's 40 levels,
Oh, nice.
and they weren't too short.
It's like
That's a good size.
It's like a colourful platforming game where you're a
Yes.
guy and you
Yeah.
jump over.
Yeah,
but
you
it was
play,
VR, so you get
play
more of a...
as Max Mustard, and you help her kind of navigate the level, and then at some point you get the VR aspect. So you're following along with the headset, right? And it kind of moves as you do. And then at some point you have to help her, right? And then it's like it gives you like a little ray gun, and you're like shooting things with the VR controllers.
Oh, okay.
So it's really, really intuitive and cool.
Yeah,
And I think me and Alan, it was possibly one of the highlights of PAX for both me and
definitely one
Alan.
of the highlights. And Ben was nice enough to say if you need footage, because we've got footage of us playing, but we definitely want footage of the actual gameplay.
That's always helpful.
Because in the footage of the gameplay, you see some of the further stages. You can see, even at the start, the inspiration of... You got the little crates that are similar to Crash Bandicoot crates. Spinning attacks, that sort of thing. The overall aesthetic, even some of the lettering, very much reminiscent of old school Spyro.
Yeah.
And then...
And you talk about that in the interview too.
Just, like, they've taken inspiration from these games that they've played... And then made it their own, not just ripped it.
We must be, I guess, around the same age bracket as these dudes, because all the games they took inspiration from are all the games that we loved as kids.
Yeah,
100%.
So we're just like we're vibing with this.
Yeah. And it's cool enough to the point where, because my cousins for some reason definitely want VR. I think they've got the Astrobot games. They want the Astrobot VR one, and I'm like, well, you're too young for VR, little buddy. But eventually, it'd be a game that I'm.
And that's the thing. It's a good family game.
Yeah. Once they're tired of Astrobot, I'll be like, come here, you little shit. I'm going to show you a real game like that you want to play. And this will be the game kind of that I'd say brings them into VR properly, rather than VR chat or some other heinous thing.
Not Resident Evil.
Oh, don't let public service announcement. Don't let your kids play VR chat or Roblox, please.
Yeah.
They're not good.
VR
for
chat's
kids.
for adults to get weird and experience weird things. I had some interesting times in that game. It's
There's a good YouTube channel where there's a guy and he has all these equipment and he like would do weird things in VR that you shouldn't be able to do. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but
like he dresses up as Kermit the Frog and like he has the whole kind of gymnastics setup.
Oh, yes.
Or no, he does one as Spider-Man where he's like hanging off the ceiling and
Yes,
doing like
yes.
Spider-Man poses and like people are like, how are you doing that? And he's like, I'm Spider-Man.
because the camera picks it all up.
Yeah, he has like the whole kind of green screen and like everything. Like with
One
the
time,
cameras.
one time I connected to a server where they were watching illegal cable because they can feed the illegal cable into the server, and then like some guy who was like this giant thing, he just kind of stared at me. I was like, "Get out!" And I was like, that's what I mean
But
when I
it's
say
not-
it's such a strange.
Don't let your kids play
like it's like
VR like
90s
that.
cyberpunk virtual reality.
Yeah.
But without the grittiness.
Yeah. And this is gone from like us being like, you know what, this is a game that'll probably get us into VR to like why you shouldn't be into VR.
Yeah,
that's more of a part of
we're
the
mixing
people.
our messages.
That's more of a part of the people than
Yeah.
Well, before we move on to tabletop, James and I decided to do something a little different when we were, roaming around towards the end of Saturday. We actually talked to an educator because it's all these. Victoria is like the home of video games for basically.
There's a lot of indie
Oceania.
devs in Melbourne and Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah, because Fruit Ninja, Untitled Goose Game, whatever, they really put us on the map, and like we actually export huge video games out into the world. I mean, indie games, right? But not we're not like Doom or anything.
Yeah.
But like that's like kind of like our thing. It's like people pay. Like we have actually very good educational resources in Australia. So we're like, every year we pass these institutes that like, they talk about courses and trying to get people to sign up and, actually become a PAX exhibitor. You know what I mean? Like start that journey for yourself. So I was like, why don't we quickly interview someone from the Holmesglen Institute? And so we did, and it was really interesting. Because I don't think they get talked to by the media very often. So we talked to a gentleman, I believe, called Daniel.
I think so, yeah.
And, we just talked about, like, being in the epicenter of this indie explosion. And, like, the changes in technology that allow them to easily teach their students industry standard practice. Because, like, these days, like, anybody, I say anybody, in quotation marks, anyone, can create a video game. Because, like, if you have the things Daniel said to us was, if you have a video game, you can create, if you have a gaming PC, you can create a game. at least a double A game, because all the tools,
the technology,
all the tools that the big companies use are essentially available to you at home, which is interesting because if you've been following video game news, Halo has moved from their engine to Unreal. So it's like all these companies are now moving to Unreal because it's easier to outsource. And there's also so much more documentation for anything they might want to possibly do. So the tools are more democratized than ever. And he was also talking about how that also enables them to teach people with disabilities. They can do it from home. And all this other stuff about social issues that allow them to teach video games to people who are interested in learning. And yeah, so that'll be up. That full interview will be up on YouTube at some point. Yeah,
that was really interesting looking at, because we're talking to people who make the games, and it's interesting to talk to someone who's an educator teaching young people to eventually make the games that
Yeah. All right. We are running out of time, boys. We might go to a very quick break before we come back with more PAX content. You are back on the Tuesday Review, talking all things PAX Aus 2024. Yeah, so look, before we head straight into tabletop, does anyone else have any other good video game related content that we'll cover on the show before?
Just quickly, we also played Daemon Masquerade, which was cool.
That was the point and click kind of puzzly one.
Yeah, like Dr. Seuss comic booky style art. That was awesome.
I didn't get a chance to play it, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it was cool. It's like a comic book style point and click adventure. You solve puzzles, and then there's a larger mystery. We didn't have heaps of time to play the demo, but we really enjoyed it. And we got an interview with the developer about that, and hopefully we'll revisit that. I also played Key Fairy, which I really enjoyed.
That was like a bullet hell game. What impressed me about that was the fact that the art was there on the table for people to look at.
So what was really striking about it was this black and white art, and
one bit,
all the art. Yeah, all the art was drawn on paper and then scanned in.
I love it when they do that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really striking game, and it was a well-made game because even though it was black and white, I knew where I was going. I knew what I was doing. And you play as this fairy in this magic forest, and there are these creatures you have to avoid. And yeah, it was really cool. So I'm looking forward to see more of that. You guys played Away From Home, didn't you?
I did.
Because I wasn't there for that.
And I did a struggle street on the rhythm games as I normally do.
Yeah, rhythm games are hard. Yeah, but I really like the art style of that.
The art style was nice.
Yeah, it was like a retro, like Super Nintendo graphics maybe, or like Sega Genesis graphic kind of style.
And I believe the exhibitor's name was Cameron, and he was really nice.
Yeah, we got an interview with him.
Yeah, we got an interview with him. He was really good. I like... It always kind of feels awkward when you're interviewing someone and they're really busy and you're like, I'm taking this guy's time away or this person's time away. You don't know how they're feeling about it. They might not really want to be interviewed. He was very good. He kind of was like really comfortable, and he made us comfortable with like, no, he's very happy to talk to us, and that also helps a lot. Because it's also not easy when you're interviewing someone and you're in the convention hall and there's like 1,000 different sounds and
especially he was on his own as well, and so it was
so it's those sort of situations where I'm like,
that's why when we talk to people, we go, look, if you don't have time, we can do something on Zoom or come back later or whatever, but we try to, as much as we can do there. It's great when you can talk to them in person and there's the show floor and the energy of that.
And we also shout out to I'll come back with his name. Something Tamale.
Which game was it?
Videography.
Oh yeah.
I forgot his company name.
No, I mean that's a car game, so we'll talk about that.
We'll loop that in. But also, look, it was good. There were a lot of Melbourne developers there that we didn't get a chance to talk to, but then they're local, so we can arrange something in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, there were heaps. The problem with these kinds of things is so many games that I wish we could play them all and talk to everyone. I was just walking past all the cool games and being like, that looks cool, that looks cool, that looks cool. And especially some of them are really popular, so it's like you try to get an interview and there's just, or try to play it and there's a long line of people.
Timely Tamale, I'm not sure if that's how I'm meant to read it. It's kind of
Timely
abbreviated.
Tamale.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, we didn't get his name,
which is a rookie mistake.
Yeah. But it's like the energy of it, like, oh, hey man, you want to play a game? Cool, yeah. And this is like, yeah, but we'll
then a man sits down at the table you're at when you've been separated from the boys and you get hustled.
Yeah.
That happened to me in videography.
Yeah, we'll talk about that with Spellward as well, his other game. Yeah, so many games that and it's a shame we can't play them all and interview all the devs, and hopefully we can catch up with some of the ones we missed. One game I wanted actually Alan to mention because he played it. I was just standing behind him. It was Corporeal. It's another New Zealand.
I forgot about that. From Code NZ.
Yeah, another New Zealand,
or Code Nz,
which was really interesting because it's like you had these photographs, which are real photographs, not like computer generated ones. And then it was like some sort of mystery game where you had to like compare photos. And
I had a quick chat to one of the ladies on that booth. She was involved in the development of the game in some way, and we were talking about how it's very similar. Making that game is also very similar to making a movie. Because it was just staging the photos and...
Yeah. Well, it reminded me of... We were talking about
Immortal.
it, me and Nathan, was Immortality, where
that's
that game that I think we talked about last year maybe, where you play clips, like live action clips, and then you have to like, match them to other clips and compare them and go through all this archive footage. So it's kind of like that. It was really cool. It was really creepy too. It's like... Yeah. Because you're searching through these old... Memories. 25-year-old photos and...
Yeah, so it obviously involves a bit of death and figuring things out relating to death. And that was like I was like, it's Spooktober. I'm gonna check something on that realm out. And from like a game front, it's more about, like you said, solving a puzzle rather than like being, I guess, quick on the draw. That kind of platforming skills. But that's still a valid game in my books.
Yeah, it's very engaging.
Yeah, it's more about being engaging and getting you to, I guess, succeed in this goal.
Uncovering the mystery.
Well, it's critical thinking, right? It's like you've got a prompt and you have to match a photo to the prompt, and it takes the logical thinking skills to match them.
Yeah, and you're able to overlay negatives or photos on top of each other, and then print them out to, I guess, create a new photo, which allows you access to more of another set of photos in a way. So there's that kind of, like I said, critical thinking, problem solving, and uncovering. Which, seems like a pretty cool game overall. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to the main dev behind it. But that's something we'll follow up with because, I thoroughly enjoyed my full experience of it.
Yeah, that looked really cool. All right, well, should we talk about card games, board games?
Yeah, we'll probably have to talk about this in more depth in a later episode.
But we can go a little bit.
We might just go a little bit longer.
Me and James had the opportunity to interview the Vice President of Chaosium, Michael O'Brien, which was a great privilege because Chaosium is the company that publishes RuneQuest, Pendragon, Call of Cthulhu, you name it. They're like this, I would say they're the second biggest tabletop RPG company behind Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast. I think Michael might, kind of disagree with that estimation, but I think he's being humble.
It was one of the big ones.
I think he was being humble.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll probably put that interview out at a later date and talk about that more in depth because there's a lot to talk about with tabletop RPGs in particular right now.
Yeah.
But thought I'd mention that. Honourable mention to that, which we'll discuss later.
Yeah, that was great.
Date.
We played a campaign of
Rivers of London.
We played a Chaosium game,
yes.
Rivers of London.
And shout out to our host, Jack
Squarebag.
Our game master.
Quick interview with him as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting interview.
Well, we definitely got to hit him up at a later date.
Yeah. All this stuff will be on the YouTube. So we're just kind of recapping. Oh, we saw this. We talked.
We're giving our audio listeners just a little taste of what they can see.
Yeah, but make sure you go on the YouTube because there'll be like longer interviews with these people, video interviews.
And we may have got ourselves an invite to Chaosium Con next year.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. What else was there?
I'm looking forward to that and going to a campaign of sorts of one of these games. Whether it be Call of Cthulhu or something else, and then derailing it.
That's it.
Because
challenge us. That's it.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah. It is part of the fun. You got to challenge the DM.
Getting to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Got to make them think on their feet.
Yeah.
It's like they got the story in front of them. Well, we have the right to derail that story.
Yeah.
So. Or ma'am.
Another big interview we had was with Allard from Jackbox.
Yes.
Does that count as a video game?
It
is.
Yeah, it's a party.
I
mean, it's in the middle.
Party game.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
We'll call it in the middle between a video game and like a board game. Party game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
It's not
really
the typical
cool
video game experience.
Yeah. Yeah, he was really cool, and we talked about him because Jackbox is a pretty big company. So
well, that's probably our biggest interview ever to date. Like Michael O'Brien is big in his circle, but he's not as big as Jackbox Games.
Yeah.
And like,
Oh,
no, you reckon? Like, I
would say Michael O'Brien is more, and Chaosium is more culturally important than Jackbox.
Oh,
But Jackbox might have bigger finances.
broader appeal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
But still,
Like-
too
like
big.
Jack-
two Titans.
This guy comes to PAX most years and does like the panels, and he's a big deal. So he was our biggest kind of catch, or he's our most famous, I guess, catch. Not necessarily most important, our most famous interview, I guess.
And it was funny because I think he did say that he didn't get as many requests because I think it'd be a situation of people like, well, he wouldn't give us time.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't have time for us. And we're just like, you know what? We're going to shoot our shot.
We turned down a couple of interviews because we're not necessarily as focused on those games. And I'm like, but Jackbox, that is our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
The party game, the
That's
games you
something
play
we've
with your
played a
friends in
solid
person.
number. I think we've played at least 5 of them.
Yeah.
If
That's
not
more our kind
Yeah.
of basket of goods
Yeah.
and services.
Because as an interviewer, you have a duty to respect, the person and their time and make sure that you're asking appropriate questions, not just softball questions that
Yeah.
anyone
We
would
like
ask.
talking to people of stuff we're into already. But, it's cool to talk to anyone just interesting
Yeah.
and learn about them. But, yeah, we
But,
I mean,
like
in
to-
isolation, yes, but at PAX, when everyone always also has another 1,000 things to be doing, it's kind
That's
of just
true,
like...
yeah.
Respecting that person's time, that sort of thing.
And also when we have, set time and it's just like, all right, let's go to...
We also
things
didn't
we're
want to
super
overbook
interested in.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we just managed to
But
scrape
what's-
everything in anyway.
What's great about doing cons like this is you go, okay, I'm going to talk to these guys because I know I like this game. And then you just go, oh, I'll talk to these guys. And you end up loving what's going on there. So it's a great way to discover and meet new people.
Toast Interactive of Max Mustard was a bonus for us because we didn't have
Yeah.
anything booked. And I spoke to him and I'm like, if you got a chance maybe tomorrow or Sunday, we'd love to come by. There was an opportunity and bam,
me and El Malaki, because that was a busy booth, and we got in at 10 when they opened with the sneaky media entrance, and we basically went straight there, and we got straight in.
Yeah.
But when we'd finished, there was already like quite a queue.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we had to wait like a good 20 minutes probably for the interview. We're happy to wait. We're professional waiters. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But
still, we waited less than we would have at a regular PAX just
Yeah.
for one of the new games or something.
yeah. But, and it was one of those things where we were lucky we got the chance to play it because that booth was going off.
Yeah.
Back to board games, we enjoyed... What did we enjoy specifically? Crayne's
Aethermon.
Fraction Empires was one of the first ones we really enjoyed.
That was really cool. It's like a, card, like a battle card game.
A deck building game, I would call
Yeah.
it.
Indirect violence.
Yeah, but what was really interesting, so they were teaching us, sort of laying it out and teaching us how to play. And Callum was like, I have no idea what's going on.
I was just like, the Homer Simpson thing with the monkeys hanging in there. That was me the entire time.
And I was like, I was filming, so I wasn't going to play, but I was like, yeah, this seems complicated. But then you guys started playing, and I was watching and filming, and it was really, really fun and really interesting.
Once you get
actually,
through one full kind of
I still I made some mistakes, but it was quite intuitive.
Yeah. We ended up buying a copy, and like one thing I really liked about it was that it seemed very balanced and fair, because it wasn't like Magic the Gathering where you build your deck and go, I've got all the best cards, ha ha ha.
Everyone's buying cards from the same pool.
Yeah, you all have the
During the
same
game.
pool, and you don't there's no indirect, it's indirect combat. So you can't gang up on someone.
Yeah.
You can't say, I'm going to get rid of this guy first so I can. It's like everyone's fighting each other.
You set your attack and defense, and then it plays out how it plays out.
Yeah, and after everything, you kind of get rid of your cards and sort of start again. So yeah, that was
that was really fun.
Yeah,
like
you're
doing the best you can.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
kind of want to play it
And
now.
that hopefully lets you win.
You want to
rather
play it
than-
now?
Yeah, now that you're talking about it, I'm like, oh,
Because we also bought the expansion too, so we got other cards.
Should do an unboxing. I've still got all the ones I bought last year. I haven't done the unboxing for yet.
Yeah.
Same with Aethermon. We played a wonderful game called Aethermon
that was so much fun.
that I want to play just thinking about it.
Aethermon was fun and it was quick. And as I said to the guy in the interview, this is a drinking game for me and the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have to think about too much. It's pretty easy to. It's very easy to learn.
Yeah.
And pretty quick to play, but good.
There's enough It's simple enough for kids, but there's enough strategy as well.
Yeah, and it has the fun little.
Because it's kind of like
characters and-
Pokemon, and like the objective is you kind of shuffle the cards up, you put them on the mat, and then you got to collect all the cards you can before I guess the game ends, right?
Yeah.
There's no more cards to collect where you land on an empty space 4 times. It's over.
Yeah.
And then you have the different families of Pokemon or the evolutions and whatever.
Yeah, you got,
else.
like, the
You
water-
get bonuses for getting all the families and all that kind
Yeah.
of
So
stuff.
you got the cards that'll change a little bit of the gameplay.
And
Yeah,
the
you got,
artifacts.
the
perk-
artifacts.
Yeah. That was really fun.
But what's interesting, I think we got an interview with them. So
Chris, was it?
yeah.
Yeah, he was really
He was
cool.
one of the
really
3
nice.
Chris's that we.
Yeah. One of the Chris's. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really nice. And, you know, he gave us a lanyard.
He also gave us a free copy of the
Lanyards,
game.
And pins, yeah. Yeah, it was
I'm trying
awesome.
to big note us.
Which we
Yeah.
don't take.
We don't take nothing for granted.
No. yeah.
If anything, we actually bought the extras.
We
and
did.
James
Yeah,
He
I
gave
bought
it-
another copy.
He gave us the game, and we just bought everything else because
Yeah.
we were just like, this.
And
We
bought
want the
another copy of the game.
Yeah.
We want the full experience. And
Yeah.
James
Yeah.
bought his
And
own
also, just take our money, man.
copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
we did this thing where we're boys from the northern suburbs. So we like to pay cash for things. The venue doesn't like that. That's all right. It's fun.
we also
I'm just saying, $20 may have slipped on the fell on the
just-
floor, and some merchandise may have fallen in our bags.
Just a quick note on Aethermon. There's a whole.
Yeah, it's
World
a whole
behind it.
universe. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
making other games, other kind of media for
Yeah.
it. That's exciting.
yeah,
to-
that's always cool.
There is the game can be played cooperatively or competitively, which again adds dynamics. I'm pretty sure. I don't think
You can
Chris
go
said
2
this,
on
but
2.
you could do 2-on-2. He might have said that.
Yeah.
So there's different kind of ways to play it,
Yeah.
which add to kind of playability and general repeatability. So that's pretty awesome.
What are there any other
We
kind of games we like?
played Glade, which was a really interesting game.
You played Glade.
Oh, I played Glade, yeah, which was
I
Nathan
sat there
struggled.
with cards in front of me.
Nathan attempted to shuffle some cards around, but but that was really interesting. It was like basically a forest or a garden building game.
I know. Me and Alan watched
People,
on
people,
Mystified.
Yeah.
tell me that
Where-
it was about a forest and garden.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but
I'll
you
take
you
your
have
word for
you
it.
have these cards, and it had a really striking art style, and you basically you can plant. So each card has a different tree or type of plant. That's like a fantastical fantasy type made up plant, magical plant. That has different properties, and it's this on this card, this plant can only be planted in a straight line. So if you get more of that card, you have to plant in a straight line. This one has to be planted in a zigzag. This one has to be planted next to your home base, and you basically plant you pick what's best that you think, you plan it, and then you hand your deck to the next person, and then they play a card. And so similar to Crayne Fractured Empire, it's got this kind of balanced nature where you don't build your deck going, haha, I have all the best trees. It's kind of like you just have to pick what you get and then give it to the next person.
I
and they
did like
pick.
that element of it, but it didn't help me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Had a cool.
I liked Mean though.
Mean was.
Yeah, you guys played that. I wasn't
That
there
was
for that.
sick.
What was that like?
That was like Uno, but meaner,
Yeah.
kind of.
So perfect for you guys.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's
Perfect
Although
for
he
Alum.
told us we didn't play that aggressively, but we were trying, damn
We were
it.
trying.
Yeah.
Get a couple drinks in Alum and
that's exactly.
Well, I think Alum got a copy of Mean.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got a copy. of Mean.
we got a
It
copy of that. We'll bring it over one
Mean,
day.
Yeah.
Mean was it's Uno, but for people that like to get drunk and stuff like, and
and
that-
friendships.
that's the Mean in a nutshell. So yeah, it's very much Uno-esque where you've got kind of the aim of the game is to get rid of all your cards, but you're limited with certain rules and
There's
regulations.
4 Mean piles in the center, right?
Okay.
And so if you play a Mean card against someone, he goes in turn order.
Yeah,
If that person plays a Mean card, then the next person has to pick up a pile of the punishment.
yeah,
pile.
the punishment cards. Unless you can play a Mean card yourself.
And then it goes, and then the next person has to pick up 2 piles.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or if you drop 2 Mean cards in the first place,
Yeah.
the next person would have to pick
Yeah.
up 2 piles unless they can present their own Mean card.
Yeah.
Damn.
You can swap hands with people.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have 8 isn't the special card for that. So there's a few different kind of quirks and rules that make the game again.
And then if you go high, then it'll make the play order go down again.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's unique enough from Uno. It's not it's not a rip. It's unique enough that it's got its own elements that make it interesting, and it's fast-paced gameplay that you can Just be like, all right, I
Learn
lost. Oh
quickly
well.
Yeah.
Let's roll again, because especially if you're having a few drinks and you're getting hustled, or you get your juice rustled, you can try and win it back, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Because some of the games, yes, sometimes you want to be in a big long campaign. Other times you're just like, you're sitting there for 45 minutes and you're like, I'm losing here. It becomes a situation from The Sopranos where you're like $8,000 in the hole and you're like, can you lend me another dime?
Yeah. And so, a lot of games, board games, it's like they take so long to learn and then to set up and then to play is like could be an hour or two. But it's a lot of these games that
game with Dracula.
Yeah, I was right about to say that. Daniel's like, come over, I bought this game, I used my work bonus
Fury
on it.
of Dracula.
Fury of Dracula, something like
Well,
that.
you need a PhD to be able to play that.
Yeah, dude, James, I'm telling you, we went over there like, yeah, cool. And he's like, we're going to be here all day, I've just set it up. And it's like...
Jeez.
Yeah, and you have to watch a
You
YouTube
watch
video.
YouTube video.
and-
He was like, here's a
Oh,
YouTube
no.
video. I'm like, we understood none of it. It was like really complicated.
And I was saying you need a PhD level of, like, I guess, intellect, because I don't count that as anything. A person with a degree can be smarter than a person with no, or vice versa. It's more about you need to do a PhD worth of research.
Because it was like a giant map.
together.
It was like a
Yeah.
giant map of Europe, and you had to hunt Dracula, and he was trying to hunt you or some shit
Yeah.
like that, and it was very complicated.
Sounds cool though.
It sounds
does sound
cool,
in-
but you're gonna
It sounds cool, James.
but you have to devote your life to it.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
dedicate, like,
Yeah.
again, 4 years and
Yeah.
or 3 years and some grants and,
Yeah.
They released a video game version of it, and it's just as complicated. Like a digital representation of the board game.
Yeah.
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 No.
So we're into the games that are a little bit less stressful on the old noggin.
Yeah.
Reminds me of How I Met Your Mother, where Marshall develops that esoteric.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
You guys also played a game called Nimbus, which was kind of like chess, but like with these triangular stone, like
that's the one.
pyramid shape.
I got cocky and I lost.
Yes.
Yeah,
Me versus
you were
Nathan.
killing Alan for a while, and then
I
Alan
was
was
a couple
like,
pieces down.
yeah,
but
More
you-
than a couple, sir.
Yeah.
yeah. You only had a couple pieces
I
left.
had like three pieces left.
I
or
was
something.
destroying Alan
And-
in weird chess.
Yeah.
With like, so it's basically this chess, but you can change the way the pieces behave every turn.
Yeah, and it's on like the pentagon,
Hexagonal,
hexagon, like
yeah.
Chinese checkers board, and then you can
The
flip.
pieces are what, triangular tetrahedrons, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that would be, yeah,
Are
it'd,
they-
be, it'd have to be tetrahedron because
Yeah.
you can't be otherwise. It'd be
It's
pyramid.
3, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's four
it's
sides,
three,
four
yeah.
sides of triangles,
Yeah.
and so they have 4 cornices,
Yeah.
which each represent a different element.
And each element behaves a different way on the board.
yeah. You can move like
So you
in
move
chess.
and change.
In chess, the knight moves this way, and the
Yeah,
king moves
So
this way.
you
Whatever.
can move a piece, and then you get to change the orientation of another piece, so it behaves differently the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like changing a pawn to a knight.
Yeah.
to a-
And
yeah.
What one of the
But much easier to learn because I'm not very
Yeah.
good at chess.
I mean, yeah. One of the best, I think, things that one of the gentlemen said, it wasn't the main gentleman we interviewed, it was one of the other ones that were helping. He's like, in chess, the biggest issue you run into as you try and develop your skill is it becomes a memory game.
Yeah.
It's purely about how many moves you can remember and how many kind of strategies you can remember, because every single move, I'm pretty sure, can be mapped out to like what it could lead to. And the biggest people in chess, grandmasters at the highest level, all just have ridiculously eclectic memories,
Yeah.
or photographic memories, whichever one. But they're just massive
Yeah.
nerds that remember everything,
Yeah.
and that's the whole reason why they're successful at chess. Whereas with this,
You
Because-
can only predict 3 moves ahead.
yeah,
and that's it.
with the dynamic of being able to change
Changing.
the orientation of any piece, you can only think about 3 moves ahead. Apart from that, you're lost. So each game gets to be a little more dynamic that way. And again, like chess games, I'm sure these games could also go considerably longer, but I feel, given the way the game was designed, it's probably meant to be a quicker game than a game of chess.
I think it didn't take us that long.
No.
The only problem with this for me was the cost. Like, we would have picked up a copy if it was, $50 or less. But they were selling... This is the problem with some of these games where they want to offer a premium product. You come into PAX, you're trying to sell people in your game, and his version, it was a very nice wooden... Like,
was,
everything with
real
the
piece of
materials
wood,
was very nice.
milled.
The stone, they were
Yeah.
stone pieces.
Yeah. But they were like $290.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at PAX, I'm not sure how many people are going to be willing to drop that kind of cash.
Yeah.
Just especially when you've got all the other things to see and do. if they were selling like a $50 plastic or kind of cheaper cardboard kind of version of this game, I would have been down.
Yeah, like it's
Just with cheaper materials.
Yeah.
something that gets people into the game, gets them playing regularly.
And then
And
you
then-
can sell that
when-
more expensive
when
version
you're
later.
when you're dedicated to it. You're like, you know what, I'd like this, because it becomes a centerpiece if you're really that into it on your table or something.
That's the thing.
Some people
It's
are like,
also
"Hey, what's
nice
that?"
enough to
Rosie can
display it
knock
like
the-
a chess.
Yeah.
Our cat Rosie can knock the
Yeah.
pieces around.
but that's, you've got to be either a whale, not the animal, the big spender,
Yeah.
that who's willing to drop that kind of cash, or again very much dedicated to the game. And at PAX, if you're debuting it or not, introducing it to a lot of people that have no idea about it, the likelihood of that isn't massive.
You do need a cheaper,
Yeah.
budget-friendly version to introduce people to the game.
Yeah.
But, we haven't as of yet made any kind of board game to debut at PAX, so maybe we're in the wrong. But from what at least our spending habits, we grabbed everything we could that we enjoyed, that was within that reasonable price range.
Yeah.
We'll call it reasonable sub $100 price range.
Yeah.
We were like, you know what, we can drop cash on this today. We'll take
Yeah.
it away.
Yeah.
And that, like, if the aim of the game is generating sales so that, the game can continue to rise in popularity, I feel that would be a better way to go. But obviously, they designed the game, they know what they're about. Maybe they're on the right track.
It's a nice set though. Nice.
Yeah.
It was a
Good
nice
game.
set, but we also don't have Mate, if I had $300, I'm buying a VR headset to play Max Mustard. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, I joke. The other notable games we had, we went over to the PAX collaborative tabletop space, whereas where the board game and the card game designers, the game designers kind of, they sit with games that haven't necessarily been approved for a booth, but they're still in like the design phase, right? So it's more intimate experience, I guess. You're sitting on a table with the developers of these games, and you get to play with them and talk about the game in I guess a more casual setting than a booth, right?
Yeah, and
they
it's
can't
also
sell anything
Yeah, it's also about
unless you're Martin. And then
Yeah,
he's
well,
there, and then he's
some of
there,
them-
but he's selling some
Yeah,
stuff.
some of them will
Yeah.
probably have sets ready to
Yeah.
go, but a lot of these are things that are still in development, and you're still like play testing and getting
Yeah.
feedback. And we did it last year. We played games that were still in very rough form, not no final artwork, no final materials. But that's really fun because you get people who are really passionate about making games, and you get to have your input about what maybe they could improve upon or whatever, what you really liked.
But the games we played there, we played 2 games of the same creator, but Timely Tamale, by the looks of it. Is
Yeah,
the
I know.
company's name.
We should message him and be like, sorry.
Are we saying it wrong? At least,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm sure he's got a real. I don't think there's a real name.
Timely. Timely. I mean,
Mr.
Okay.
Time.
So tamale is a
tomato, right?
Tamales.
okay.
tamale is a Mexican,
Mexican.
kind of dish made from corn flour
Yeah.
and meat. And
Yeah.
Um,
That. So first, me and Nathan played videography,
Yes.
which was his newer game that he was showcasing. And that was really fun and simple and easy to learn and easy to play.
So that one I really enjoyed. That. So
Yeah.
what happens is you put the card down at the start. Everyone gets like 5 cards, whatever.
Something
it
like
is.
that, yeah.
And
aim of the game is to get rid of your cards.
names, yes, get rid of your cards, and you have like genre or kind of trope or character cards, those kinds of deals. And say you put down a card that says war at the start. That's the first card, and then you have to look at your cards and see if you have a card where you can mention a piece of media that involves both
Yeah,
those.
like
cards.
it
So,
might
for
say
instance-
robots, and you would say Terminator.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
war
And then
on
the
your
next
card
person
down.
has to use that
Robot.
robot card.
Yeah, and you might have one card that says comedy, so you'd go like...
Short circuit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so that's pretty easy because anyone who's watched a movie or a show...
Yeah.
I think he said books as well count.
Yeah.
Anything
Well,
with a narrative.
he was anything with a general narrative, it's accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that really fun until you're sitting there without any of your buddies, and then like an older guy sits down and he's like, "Oh no, I don't really watch movies," and then no one gets a word in, and he just wins.
Yeah.
And we play a few games, And
But
the
that's-
designer gave him extra cards each time he won,
to make
and
it
it was
harder.
still not close.
Yeah,
Not even
but
close.
like Alan was saying with chess, is there are some people who just have a mind where they can memorize that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and so you know,
That's the kind of person that doesn't get invited to the party anymore.
yeah,
Basically.
yeah, it's not fun to play with them.
And his other game
Yeah, so his other game
is much
that,
more interesting.
that he this is his other game Spellward, which is going to be released first, and he's going to start a Kickstarter for that
There's
first.
Kickstarters we'll post about all.
Yeah,
those.
we're going to
He's-
follow up with him
I
and
think he's-
interview him.
He's also going to try and I think his plan generally is to try and come and do an in-person interview with us.
Yeah,
but
so we'll follow
if that
up with
doesn't
him.
work out, we can always do it over Zoom.
Yeah, but Spellword was cool too. Is a similar sort of card game where you have to get rid of your cards. There's a stack in the middle. Basically, you put down a letter.
Yeah, same exact kind of gameplay loop.
Yeah, and then so if there's an A on the table and you've got
An E card.
yeah, an E.
That's like 5 letters. You would say apple.
Yeah, and
so each letter card has a number attached to it.
yeah,
And so when you play a card, you have to look at the number attached to the card you're playing and come up with a word that starts with the one on the table,
yeah, and
ends in the card you're playing, but also has to have the same amount of letters that the card you're
Yeah.
playing has.
Yeah,
And I guess, thing that complicates the game more is it has to be the exact number of letters.
Yeah.
yeah,
Some cards later on were like 7+, where you need 7 or more letters, which I think is cool because sometimes you just want those big words. But a lot of them were you can't just be like, all right, this has got at least 5, so I'll throw this word. You have to be specific. That slows everything a little bit down and kind of keeps the game fresh,
Tense,
tense.
Also, this is a good game for old kids, like primary school age kids learning game.
Yeah.
Like, it has
Man,
an
look,
element where
I have a writing degree. I didn't get one card down.
Oh,
that's why I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm on a movie podcast,
Yeah.
and I can't name any movies because this older gentleman keeps just destroying us.
But like when we're playing Spellword, it's like my max was 4 letters. Like
Yeah.
I could only think of 4-letter words, and then we were playing with another guy who we didn't know, and he was like banging out the 6s and the 7s, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's either really smart or has a really good memory, or I mean, I guess maybe being smart is having a really
Yeah.
good memory. I don't know. But
Kind
yeah,
of.
that was still a good game and fun. But yeah, it's for our mushy brains.
Yeah.
It could be
As long as you're
hard.
playing against people that you're similarly skilled with,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be steamrolled, but you don't want to be steamrolling either because there's no fun to it.
Yeah.
Well, there is
Mm.
a little bit of fun, but it's about keeping a balance.
Anyone else have any other highlights?
I
Our
think-
tabletop experience was cool. We played Rivers of
Yeah, Rivers on, and we talked about that. Yeah, I got to reconnect with my friend Agnes from uni, who I hadn't seen in like 10 years. So that was really cool. And we interviewed she had a panel at PAX, and she was doing some cool stuff. So that was really cool.
But that was intimidating.
Yeah, she talks about. I mean, when
haven't
the
watched it yet,
interview
yeah.
comes out, yeah, she talks about how it helped with sort of coming out of your shell and not performing in front of people, and so that was really cool, and that's something that we've done with the show is like just talking to more people and
Yeah, but
being more open.
imagine
and-
doing this show in front of like
A
1,000
live-
people in the
yeah,
audience,
yeah.
live audience, like, it would be a disaster.
Well,
or we'd get kicked out.
one
of
of
the
one of
convention.
the one of the things with Alum with anything, yeah, we have to censor. We need a dump button like in the live.
like the
setting.
Men in Black little,
Yeah, the
Don't bring
memory.
like a
bring
7-second
words.
flash.
Yeah.
You're right.
Megaphones start yelling.
Put the sunglasses on. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we were talking about how you can with PAX you can like apply to have your own panel. So technically, we could just be like, hey,
So
look forward to the Tuesday review panel.
behind
Yeah.
the scenes for listeners here, when you get the media application successful, they send you an email saying, "Would you like to host a panel?" We always have that option every year, but
Yeah.
we're not crazy,
Yeah.
so we always say no.
yeah.
Because then,
But
that
we
would
can
also add
even if we weren't
scrutiny on
media,
us.
you can
Yet.
Yet.
even if we weren't media, you can like apply and say,
Yeah.
I have this idea for a
Yeah.
panel and
But they
and
approach
invite
us.
people.
They approach us specifically as
Yeah.
media to do a panel.
Also, I think this was at Comic-Con. I don't know if they do it at PAX, but they have like a live streaming, live podcasting thing
yeah.
as well. One day, maybe we can.
Oh,
do
look,
something
it'd be
like
good,
that.
but our problem for us is it's like it also I guess it applies scrutiny on you. Because I'm like, yeah, we're media. And it's like, then you get people looking up and they have 62 subscribers on YouTube. Why do they get a panel? And we're just like, shut up.
No, but that's the thing is anyone can have a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Agnes was saying, like, you know, she did the same panel, I think, last year and maybe the year before, I forget. She said this was the most popular year. So even though she just made this thing up, it was about, like, brand collaborations in video games. People are gravitating it towards. So we could come up with an idea and make a panel for it, and people show up. They show up. Doesn't matter how popular we are.
What would our panel? Let us know, listeners.
We've had
what
a
would
few
our
ideas
panel
already,
be?
but those ideas would look kindly.
What would our panel be? Probably like your worst takes in movies that are correct. That'd be our favorite worst takes.
Being haters.
Yeah.
Haters in the video game
Our
space.
panel would be called Fake It Till You Make It.
Fake it till you make it, yeah.
We're still on that journey, yeah.
Like each year the panel gets bigger and bigger. And we're like, see, people, we told you. You just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're successful.
Although, you know what? We could hustle something.
Yeah.
We could email some people we know and be like, come to a panel. We can make it interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the developers we met, it's like, you know, hey, do you want to do a panel where we talk about your...
Do a longer form interview live on stage.
Yeah, like, you know, talk to all these different Aussie developers.
That's probably the most realistic thing we could do, would be just like a long form podcast interview live on stage. Because people like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so what we'd probably do is, how a small startup kind of can get their message out there using other small, I guess, you know, media kind of individuals. Because, like the big boys, they've got their own, you know, marketing teams and budgets. It's the small people that need the help the most.
Yeah.
It's about fostering that smaller community of people. So maybe
you could just do a thing about community fostering.
I think that like our conversation with Michael O'Brien was really interesting, and I felt bad because I'm asking him all these questions, and he's a busy guy. But I think that if you were to get him in an auditorium, and
well, that's what I was kind of
like someone like,
to.
for example, he started telling us some stories, which we know I'm not going to spoil. We'll say for the YouTube. But it's like, there's so much room for him to tell these stories and expound them. There's so many questions I want to ask once he tells me about these stories. Where it's like, you could definitely do a panel on, like, you know, a conversation with Michael O'Brien, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe
like,
we do that
like
at Chaosium Con.
You know, it's even with Allard. It's like, you know, like, these people are so, and not just these people in positions of authority, but I mean, so many people. But
that's what I'm saying is like any of the indie devs, you know,
have like
you
a
could
round
have
table.
You could have 3 or 4 of them and be like, okay, talk about your experiences, talk about your experience, or I mean, we could do anything really. But I think it's been.
We haven't got the cojones.
Yeah.
Well, we also, I mean, we've talked about before.
We're going to get tanked one day before in the morning. We're doing it.
That would help.
We've also talked about before, like, we've technically only been on this journey for a little bit over a year. And within that year, a lot's happened behind the scenes where it kind of, we had to take a lot of breaks, and Alan couldn't join us a lot, and
that's also unfortunate. When we were really started getting serious about it, Alan had to step away.
And then there's money issues, and there's work, and there's all stuff behind the scenes. So we're still only even though we've been doing the show in one form or another for many years, technically we've only been really starting to get out there and network with people and go to cons and do interviews over the last year, and not throughout all of the year. So I'm hoping, I think this PAX was really good, and we learned a lot of
people. A lot of Melbourne people were interested in talking to. Yeah. And you're interested in talking to us.
Oh, the Hunted by a God guys were really cool.
Was it Hunted by a God?
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Hunted by a God. And they were really cool.
They're more local to us than most of the other developers. So even though we didn't get a chance to see them,
so
that's
we'll
almost
follow
a
up,
locked thing.
We'll follow up with them. And so, we learned a lot from last year that we could apply this year. And we talked to a lot of people and networked a lot, and we have a lot of cool content coming out. And I think last year I said, we should do more cons, and we only ended up doing Comic-Con, which didn't pan out as the way we wanted.
But we found out Chaosium is a thing, and it's nice and local to us.
Exactly, and I'd like to do Supernova and other conventions as well. And the more people we talk to, the more we can get out there, and eventually we won't be bothered by doing a live show or a panel
Yeah.
because we'll be confident enough and we'll have the material and the audience, hopefully, to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's an ongoing thing. We're always cooking in the background, even though it
That's
seems like we.
That's it. I know what our panel is, boys. It's UFOs.
Yeah.
At PAX though?
Well, yeah,
We can work
that's
it in
another
somehow,
convention.
But
yeah.
that's we can be like. We can look at UFO games or whatever, like the X-Files game. We can be like nuggets of truth in conspiracy in video games in real life. I'm like,
Yeah, or we could just do conspiracies in video games.
yeah,
You know,
there's so much to talk about.
like, oh, there's a Bigfoot in San Andreas or whatever.
the
you know,
Bigfoot is real.
Yeah.
Have
all
you
that.
seen this footage?
Yeah.
It's just like we set up a projector and have like all this cooked footage going on in the background. And I'm like, boys, you need to leave.
What does this have to do with video
Yeah.
games?
Like, shut up. They say the process shut us down.
Did you see this reel? All right. Anyone
Yeah,
else
this
have
point-
any last thoughts before we
Yeah,
call
at this
it?
point,
Oh.
Matt Myram's just sitting there being like, what are these boys talking about now?
Hey, be careful.
No.
Matt Myram's have to come on the panel too.
Yeah, no, he'll be our special guest. Yeah, he's one of us. Callum, did you talk about Mark Meir on the air yet?
No, I mean that wasn't really like we met the voice actor who plays Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect series. I mean, I didn't really get to have a conversation with him. It was more of just a quick photo opportunity.
No, yeah, but he was
which
really
I look
cool.
awfully and so will not be posted. And he did a promo for us, which we'll be, showing everyone at some
We
point.
might just cut it in now.
That was
Put it in at the end.
that was cool. So yeah.
Yeah, no, because you were really excited about meeting him, and he was very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good year, I think. I really enjoyed it. All 3 days were good. Yeah, I can't wait for next year, and hopefully we can get more cons, more interviews. Definitely keep an eye on the YouTube, subscribe, and ring the bell and all that stuff.
I think Chaosium is a good idea.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know how big it is in relation to the other cons that we've been to,
I don't know.
but some more interesting interviews. I think general like gamekeepers, dungeon masters usually have a lot to say.
Anything, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
and
it's
you'll see
interesting
with some of our YouTube interviews is like we start talking to people about one thing, and then they mention something really interesting, and that goes on to another thing. So that's why we like talking to just anyone, because
People are
everyone
very
has
interesting.
interesting.
They leave very interesting lives. And
Yeah,
have
everyone has a
very
different
awesome
experience.
experiences,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, keep an eye out for those, because there'll be more of that, and hopefully we can do more in the future and just keep growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do a meet and greet in the future. We'll actually have more than 3 people.
That's it. No one came for our free stickers.
Yeah.
That's all right.
We tell people we're PAX and they like the thing, but I guess no one who listens to us
We want to
came to
meet
PAX.
and greet you. I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, like, thank you so much for listening to us.
Yeah.
And it's just Matt Myers.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We're about out of time for tonight. Please, again, keep an eye on the YouTube. There'll be lots of footage coming out on the YouTube in the next few weeks. There's a lot to get through, so it'll take a little bit.
Oh, if we can, we'll put the the floor, me walking around the con floor
over this
audio, so you'll get a bit
that
of
was
an
on the
idea.
SSD.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah.
We're also on all the other socials: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky Newsmask, Twitter. At Tuesday Review AU on all platforms.
Yeah.
Lots coming out.
We're also on Letterboxd, so make sure you're following us, because we watch a lot of movies that we don't get to talk about in the show, so you can sort of keep up with that. And if there's something you see that we watch and you want us to talk about, you can let us know. My username on Letterboxd is channeldrifter.
I am Nathan B_90.
I'm Alum20.
And I'm Callum Tuesday.
That's all for tonight. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.
I'm Commander Shepard, and the Tuesday Review is my favorite show on the Citadel. I should go.